And after the stormy conditions of last weekend, this weekend the weather looking much quieter. For many of you it will be dry, but one or two spots we'll see some damp weather. I have the details. Something much better than last weekend, Charlie. I think that's the main thing. Last weekend all the plans were hampered by storms. This weekend, no such thing. Looking much quieter out there. We'll all see a little bit of sunshine at times.
Oh, look where you are. Look at that, seamless. Seeing as Mike's been talking about the Six Nations.
Yes, exactly. So I thought I'd give you the forecast for those of you lucky enough to have tickets today or heading off to Edinburgh or Dublin. It is looking fine. Certainly in Murrayfield, a fine winter's afternoon. Gentle breeze. It will be a bit chilly though, just 5 or 6 degrees. Increasing amounts of cloud. Turning cloudier quicker though over in Dublin at the Viva Stadium. It will be milder but also windier. That breeze will be picking up quite markedly as we go through the afternoon. It is a little bit colder this morning, in fact, Naga, for some compared with yesterday. Very good morning. So you can see a lovely frost here on the ground in Devon. Blue skies overhead. It's going to be a lovely day, winter's day for many here. Quite a few of you will see similar conditions. But just to show that we still have the remnants of a weather front across some central and eastern parts of England, a rather misty view to contrast that here in Lincolnshire. And the cloud will sit in place here and across some parts of central and eastern England all day long.
We don't, but we're on the learning curve, aren't we? Professor David Thornley, ocean and climate scientist, thank you.
All of this, of course, because we were talking about how we're so much more mild than, say, Moscow, even though we're on the same latitude, how our weather's so different, is due to those currents. And Matt is obviously someone who looks at these and weather systems. Morning to you. How did we do? Because we were learning a lot there. I'm curious that I'm going to bring up that graphic again that showed the flows.
Yeah.
You know, the cold water and the warm water and how it all flows around the world. And we can see that. And when you see that, Matt, can you just give us an overview in terms of how that affects our weather systems and how, if you can track those at all?
It doesn't have as big an impact on the weather systems as such. It does sort of drive the temperatures that we experience. It's almost like the world's air conditioning system, really, distributing some of the warm air to the colder places and so on. And for us in the UK, it almost acts like our radiator during the winter months. It stops us from getting too cold. But, as he said, if you start to put lots of fresh water on top, sort of glacier water, rainwater, that acts almost like throwing a big blanket on top of that radiator and potentially even cutting it off. I think we'll probably know it more commonly in our heads as the Gulf Stream. That's a ribbon of warm water that comes all the way from the Caribbean, but it's linked into a big system. Quite difficult to get our heads around because we're talking about climate change and the planet warming, but within that you start to disrupt patterns because of the planet warming in the atmosphere and in the ocean. It means that there can be lots of regional variation, and one of the regional variations that is possible, as he said, is that our neck of the woods could actually get a little bit colder if that whole circulation starts to break down.
We're going to keep an eye on it but these things are so worth explaining because everything's interconnected. It's all
interconnected, yes.
Yeah, it's been very, very wet of late. We've had storms, obviously. I think we're, many of us, in the market for some dry weather. Can you deliver it?
I can indeed. There's a little bit more in the way of dry weather, certainly over the next week, but it's been a very dry month. It is the 1st of February. Very good morning to you. So thought a quick look back at January. It looks like it was a colder month, believe it or not, but also sunnier than normal. And it may actually turn out that January was drier than normal, but that comes down to taking the UK as a whole. This is what I'm talking about, with variation from one place to the next. If I just show you some of the rainfall totals from the month, we had almost double the normal rainfall in parts of Somerset and the Channel Islands, whereas Cumbria, parts of Scotland, barely a third of the rainfall we'd normally expect to fall in January. So we can get those big variations in quite a small space of variation and small direction of time and also across distance. Good morning, Naga. A very good morning to you too. It's going to be a weekend that we'll see something a good deal drier and brighter than last weekend. There will be a little bit of rain in places, but it's a big contrast around this morning. Take a look at what's happening in northwest Wales. Blue skies out there above the mountains at Blanfestiniog, whereas to the east of England, it's grey and it's misty and quite damp in places too.
Hello there. Well, I'm sure you'll be pleased to hear it's a pretty decent weather story to tell over the next few days. As a general rule, slightly wetter and windier across the north and west. Temperature-wise, all very average, but at night, under clear skies, it will be cold enough for some patches of frost and maybe some pockets of fog too.
Good afternoon to you. After all the rainfall that we've had recently, the ground is saturated. But the good news is, over the coming week, it looks like high pressure will build in to bring a lot of dry weather for many of us.
Hello. There's been a lot of cloud across the UK once again, with a few breaks here and there, but just over the last couple of hours we've seen the clouds break up across Kent with much clearer skies.
Hello. After a cloudy start to the weekend, much brighter skies on the way tomorrow. We've got some sunshine to look forward to for part 2 of the weekend. A chillier start, mind you, maybe with a touch of frost here and there, and it will stay dry because we're close to high pressure at the